You're being too clingy and desperate, Clarissa. I can't breathe around you anymore." Tyler's voice cut through the phone like a blade, and I felt my world tilt sideways. 4 days before our wedding. 4 days before the day I had planned for 18 months, down to the last detail. "My name is Clarissa Monroe, and I'm 30 years old. I work as an event coordinator for Ravenspark Ventures in Phoenix, Arizona, where I've built my career organizing corporate retreats and high-end business conferences. I'm good at what I do, maybe too good, considering how meticulously I had planned our wedding. Every vendor was confirmed, every detail locked in place. The custom wedding dress hung in my closet, tags still attached, waiting for Saturday morning. Our honeymoon tickets to Santorini were non-refundable, purchased 6 months ago when Tyler and I were still talking about starting a family and buying a house with a white picket fence. "What are you saying, Tyler?" I managed to whisper, gripping the phone so tightly my knuckles turned white. I was standing in our shared apartment. Well, what used to be our shared apartment, surrounded by wedding gifts that hadn't been opened yet, and a stack of place cards I had spent the previous evening organizing by table. "I'm saying I need to find myself," he continued, and I could practically hear him pacing on the other end of the line. "This whole wedding thing, it's moving too fast. You've been planning every minute of our lives together, and I feel suffocated. I can't marry someone who doesn't give me space to breathe." The words hit me like physical blows. Too clingy, desperate, suffocating. These weren't the words I expected to hear from the man who had proposed to me on a beach in San Diego 8 months ago, who had told me I was his everything, who had spent countless nights talking about our future together. "Tyler, we can talk about this," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "If you need space, we can postpone." "No, Clarissa. It's over. I can't do this anymore. I thought I could, but I was wrong." His voice was cold, distant, like he was talking to a stranger instead of the woman he had promised to love forever. The line went dead, and I stood there holding the phone, staring at the wedding dress hanging on the back of my bedroom door. The silence in the apartment was deafening. Everything around me, the guest list taped to the refrigerator, the wedding favors stacked on the dining table, the honeymoon itinerary printed and highlighted, suddenly felt like evidence of my foolishness. Had I really been too clingy, too desperate for love? But as the initial shock began to wear off, something else started to simmer beneath the surface. Not just heartbreak, but anger. And maybe, just maybe, the beginning of a plan. I met Tyler 3 years ago at a coffee shop near my office, where he worked as a freelance graphic designer. He was charming, funny, and had this way of making me feel like I was the only person in the room when he talked to me. Our relationship moved quickly. Too quickly, according to my friends. But I was head over heels. When you work in event planning, you learn to appreciate people who can make decisions and commit to them. Tyler seemed like that kind of person. The first year was magical. We traveled together, spent lazy Sundays in bed reading the newspaper, and talked about everything from our favorite movies to our deepest fears. Tyler told me he had trust issues from past relationships, and I made it my mission to show him that not all women would hurt him. I was patient when he needed space, understanding when he canceled plans last minute, and supportive when his design business hit rough patches. But there were warning signs I chose to ignore, like how he would sometimes disappear for hours without explanation, or how he seemed uncomfortable whenever I brought up future plans. My best friend at the time, Victoria, tried to warn me that Tyler was pulling away, but I dismissed her concerns as jealousy. Victoria and I had been friends since college, but our relationship became strained when she started questioning Tyler's commitment to our relationship. The breaking point with Victoria came last year when I discovered text messages between her and Tyler. Nothing explicitly romantic, but enough to make me question whether my best friend was trying to sabotage my relationship. When I confronted Tyler about it, he told me Victoria had been flirting with him and that he had tried to shut it down politely. I believed him completely and cut ties with Victoria without giving her a chance to explain. Looking back now, I realize I was so desperate to believe in Tyler and our future together that I was willing to sacrifice a decade-long friendship to protect a relationship that was already cracking at the foundation. Victoria tried to reach out several times after our falling out, but I ignored her calls and messages. She even showed up at my apartment once, but I refused to open the door. Tyler and I got engaged 4 months after the Victoria incident. He proposed during what I thought was a makeup trip to San Diego, after a particularly bad fight about my controlling behavior. The proposal felt rushed, but I was so relieved that he wanted to commit to our future that I said yes without hesitation. The ring was beautiful, a vintage setting with a round diamond that caught the light perfectly, and I spent the next month showing it off to everyone I knew. Planning the wedding became my full-time obsession. I created spreadsheets for everything: vendor timelines, budget breakdowns, guest dietary restrictions, seating arrangements optimized for maximum social harmony. Tyler seemed amused by my attention to detail at first, calling me his little perfectionist, and joking that he was lucky to have someone so organized. But as the wedding date approached, his jokes became sharper, more critical. He started calling my planning obsessive and accused me of caring more about the wedding than the marriage. I should have seen the red flags, but I was too invested in the fantasy of our perfect life together to acknowledge that the foundation was already crumbling. The humiliation set in fully the next morning when I had to start making phone calls. 200 guests needed to be notified. The venue, the caterer, the photographer, everyone who had blocked out their Saturday for our celebration needed to know that there would be no wedding after all. Each conversation was a fresh wound, especially when people asked what happened, and I had to explain that the groom had simply changed his mind. My mother cried when I called her. My father, ever practical, immediately started asking about deposits and cancellation fees. My sister drove over from Tucson within hours, armed with ice cream and tissues, ready to help me pick up the pieces. But the person I really wanted to talk to was Victoria, the friend I had pushed away in my blind devotion to Tyler. Victoria and I had met during our sophomore year at Arizona State University, bonding over late-night study sessions and shared dreams of successful careers. She had been there through every major moment of my 20s, job interviews, family drama, bad breakups before Tyler. She knew me better than anyone, which was probably why she had tried to warn me about Tyler's commitment issues. After our falling out over the text messages, Victoria had tried to reconcile multiple times. She sent birthday cards, left voicemails explaining that Tyler had been the one initiating their conversations, and even reached out through mutual friends. But I was too proud and too protective of my relationship to listen. I blocked her number and removed her from all my social media accounts, effectively erasing a decade of friendship to prove my loyalty to Tyler. Now, sitting in my empty apartment surrounded by wedding presents and reminders of my canceled future, I realized how badly I had misjudged the situation. Tyler had painted Victoria as the villain, but maybe she had just been trying to look out for me. Maybe those text messages weren't her trying to steal my fiancé, but her trying to figure out if he was planning to hurt me. The non-refundable tickets to Santorini sat on my kitchen counter like a taunt. $4,000 for a week-long honeymoon that would never happen. The travel insurance I had purchased wouldn't cover a canceled wedding, only medical emergencies or natural disasters. I stared at the confirmation email on my laptop, reading the romantic villa description and wine-tasting excursions that Tyler and I had planned together during happier times. As I sat there wallowing in self-pity and financial loss, an idea began to form. A crazy, impulsive idea that would either be the beginning of my healing process or the most expensive mistake I had ever made. I picked up my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found Victoria's number, still there despite everything that had happened between us. My finger hovered over the call button for a full minute before I finally pressed it. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times before Victoria's familiar voice answered, cautious and surprised. "Clarissa, is everything okay?" "Victoria, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me." My voice was shaky, and I could hear the vulnerability in my own words. "Those text messages between you and Tyler last year, what really happened?" There was a long pause on the other end of the line, and I could almost hear Victoria choosing her words carefully. Clarissa, I tried to tell you back then, but you wouldn't listen. Tyler was the one reaching out to me. He kept asking me to meet up for coffee, saying he needed advice about your relationship. When I told him it wasn't appropriate for me to be in the middle of your problems, he got angry and accused me of being jealous of what you two had. My stomach dropped. What kind of advice was he asking for? He said you were becoming too attached, too focused on the future instead of living in the moment. He wanted to know if I thought you would be okay with taking a break from the relationship. I told him that if he was having doubts, he needed to talk to you directly, not go behind your back asking your friends for permission to hurt you. I closed my eyes, feeling the full weight of my mistake. Victoria, I'm so sorry. I should have listened to you. I should have trusted our friendship instead of... Clarissa, why are you calling me now? What happened? Victoria's voice was gentle but concerned. Tyler called off the wedding. 4 days before we were supposed to get married, he told me I was too clingy and desperate. He said he needed to find himself. The words felt bitter in my mouth, but saying them out loud to Victoria somehow made them feel less devastating. Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. Are you okay? Do you want me to come over? For a moment, I was overwhelmed by how quickly Victoria offered support, despite how badly I had treated her. This was the friend I had lost because I was too blinded by love to see Tyler for who he really was. Actually, I was calling to ask you something completely crazy. How do you feel about a last-minute trip to Greece? Victoria laughed, but not unkindly. What are you talking about? I have non-refundable honeymoon tickets to Santorini. $4,000 worth of romantic dinners and sunset tours that I can't get back. I was thinking maybe instead of wallowing in self-pity, I could turn this disaster into something positive. What do you say to a girls' trip? The silence stretched long enough that I started to worry Victoria would hang up on me. Finally, she spoke. Clarissa, are you sure? A week ago you wouldn't return my calls, and now you want to take me on your honeymoon? I know how it sounds, but I've been thinking about everything that happened between us, and I realize I was wrong. Tyler manipulated the situation to make you look like the bad guy, and I fell for it completely. I chose him over our friendship, and I've regretted it every day since. I can't undo the damage I caused, but maybe I can start making amends. When would we leave? Victoria asked, and I could hear the curiosity in her voice. Saturday, the day I was supposed to be getting married. The villa is booked, the flights are confirmed, and honestly, I think getting out of Phoenix for a week might be exactly what I need right now. Plus, Tyler always said I was too dramatic and emotional. Maybe it's time to show him just how dramatic I can be. Victoria was quiet for another moment, and then I heard something that made my heart lift for the first time in 24 hours. She was laughing. Really laughing. The kind of deep, genuine laugh that had made me fall in love with our friendship in the first place. You know what, Clarissa? That sounds like the best revenge I've ever heard. Count me in. As we started talking about packing and logistics, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months: excitement. Not the anxious, desperate excitement of trying to make Tyler happy, but genuine anticipation for an adventure with someone who actually cared about my well-being. For the first time since Tyler's phone call, I started to think that maybe this disaster could turn into something beautiful. The next 3 days flew by in a whirlwind of preparation and unexpected revelations. While Victoria rushed to get time off from her job at Northrise Apparel, where she worked as a marketing manager, I threw myself into transforming our honeymoon into the ultimate girls' trip. Every romantic dinner reservation became an opportunity for us to reconnect. Every couple's massage appointment was changed to side-by-side treatments for friends. But the most surprising part was how much I learned about Tyler during those 3 days of planning. When I called the hotel to change the reservation from a couple to 2 friends, the manager mentioned that someone else had already called, asking about the booking details. When I pressed for more information, I discovered that Tyler had been calling our vendors as late as Tuesday, 2 days before he called off the wedding. asking about cancellation policies and whether deposits could be transferred to future dates. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. Tyler hadn't made a sudden decision in a moment of panic. He had been planning to leave me for days, maybe even weeks, while I was addressing wedding invitations and confirming final guest counts. He had been calculating the best way to minimize his financial losses while devastating my life completely. When I shared this discovery with Victoria, her reaction was immediate and furious. "That calculating bastard," she said over coffee on Thursday afternoon. "He was planning his exit strategy while you were planning your future together. Do you realize how manipulative that is?" "I keep thinking about all the times he accused me of being controlling and obsessive," I said, stirring my latte absently. "But he was the one orchestrating everything behind the scenes. He made me feel crazy for wanting to plan our life together, when really he was planning his escape." Victoria reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Clarissa, you weren't crazy. You were being a normal person who was excited about getting married. Tyler just didn't have the courage to be honest about his feelings, so he made you the villain instead." That evening, as I was packing for Santorini, Tyler finally showed up at my apartment. I heard his key in the lock and felt my heart race, but not with the desperate hope I might have expected. Instead, I felt a cold anger that surprised me with its intensity. "Clarissa, we need to talk," Tyler said as he walked into the living room. He looked terrible, unshaven, wearing the same clothes I had seen him in 3 days ago, with dark circles under his eyes that suggested he hadn't been sleeping well. "About what, Tyler? About how you spent days calling vendors behind my back while I was planning our wedding? About how you made me feel like I was suffocating you when really you were just too cowardly to break up with me honestly?" Tyler's face went pale. "How did you... I don't know what you're talking about. The hotel manager told me someone called asking about cancellation policies. The florist mentioned that my husband had inquired about transferring our deposit to a future event. Should I keep going, or are you ready to admit that your sudden need to find yourself was actually a calculated plan to dump me while protecting your own interests?" For the first time in our 3-year relationship, Tyler looked genuinely ashamed. "Clarissa, I'm sorry. I didn't mean for it to happen this way. I just got scared and—" "Save it," I interrupted, surprising myself with how steady my voice sounded. "I'm going to Santorini tomorrow, and I'm going to have the time of my life. You can find yourself, or lose yourself, or whatever it is you think you need to do, but you're going to do it without me." Tyler's eyes widened when he saw the packed suitcases by the door. "You're still going on our honeymoon?" "My honeymoon," I corrected. "And yes, I am." The look of shock on Tyler's face was almost worth the heartbreak of the past 4 days. "You can't be serious. Who are you going with?" I smiled sweetly, enjoying his discomfort more than I probably should have. "Victoria." The color drained from Tyler's face completely. "Victoria? Your ex-best friend Victoria? The one who tried to warn me about you? The one whose friendship I destroyed because I believed your lies about her trying to steal you?" "That Victoria." I picked up my camera bag and slung it over my shoulder. "Turns out she was right about you all along." Tyler started pacing around my living room, running his hands through his hair in the gesture I once found endearing, but now recognized as manipulation. "Clarissa, this is insane. You can't just run off to Greece with her. What will people think?" "I honestly don't care what people think anymore, Tyler. I spent 3 years caring about what you thought, and look where it got me." I zipped up my carry-on bag and checked that I had my passport and boarding passes. "Besides, all those people already know you called off our wedding 4 days beforehand. I don't think my choice of travel companion is going to shock anyone." "But Victoria hates me," Tyler said, and for the first time I heard real fear in his voice. "She's going to poison you against me completely." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Tyler, you poisoned me against yourself. Victoria doesn't need to say a word. Your actions speak loudly enough. Clarissa, please. I know I handled this badly, but maybe some time apart is exactly what we need. When you get back from Greece, we can talk about... No. The word came out harder than I intended, but I didn't soften it. There's no when I get back conversation. There's no working things out or taking a break or figuring out our issues. You made your choice when you spent days planning to humiliate me. Now I'm making mine. Tyler's face crumpled, and for a moment he looked like the man I had fallen in love with 3 years ago. I love you, Clarissa. I know I messed up, but I do love you. If this is what your love looks like, Tyler, then I don't want it. I picked up my phone and opened the camera app, suddenly struck by inspiration. Actually, since you're here, would you mind if I got a quick video? I'm planning to document this whole trip, and it might be nice to have some before footage to contrast with all the fun I'm about to have. Tyler stared at me like I had lost my mind. You want to film me? Just a quick clip of you explaining why you called off our wedding, for posterity. I held up my phone, already recording. Come on, Tyler. Tell everyone about how you need to find yourself, and how I was too clingy and desperate for someone as free-spirited as you. Clarissa, stop it. This isn't funny. You're absolutely right. It's not funny at all, but it's going to make for great content when I'm sipping wine on a terrace overlooking the Aegean Sea tomorrow. I lowered my phone and smiled at him. Don't worry, Tyler. I'll make sure to tag you in all my posts so you can see exactly how much fun your ex-fiancé is having on the honeymoon you didn't want. Tyler's expression shifted from confusion to something that looked almost like panic. Clarissa, you wouldn't watch me, I said, grabbing my suitcases and heading for the door. Goodbye, Tyler. I hope you find whatever it is you're looking for. As I closed the door behind me, I could hear Tyler calling my name, but I didn't look back. I had a plane to catch and a new life to start living. Santorini was everything I had dreamed it would be, but better than I had ever imagined it could be with the right person. Victoria and I arrived at the villa on Saturday evening, what should have been my wedding night. Exhausted from travel, but giddy with the realization that we were actually doing this. The sunset from our terrace was breathtaking, painting the white buildings and blue domes in shades of gold and pink that no photograph could capture. To new beginnings, Victoria said, raising her glass of local wine as we watched the sun disappear into the sea. To friendship, I replied, clinking my glass against hers, and to the best decision I've made in years. We spent the evening planning our week, mapping out all the activities Tyler and I had researched together, but would now become memories with my restored best friend instead. Every restaurant reservation, every tour, every romantic sunset spot would be transformed from a symbol of my failed relationship into a celebration of my freedom. That night, as I uploaded our first photos to social media, I felt a thrill of anticipation. The image of Victoria and me laughing on the terrace, wine glasses in hand, and the Santorini sunset behind us was captioned simply, "Best honeymoon ever. Thanks for the recommendation, Tyler." I tagged him in the post and set my phone aside, knowing it was only a matter of time before he saw it. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Friends who had been walking on eggshells around me since the wedding cancellation suddenly flooded the comments with heart emojis and messages of support. You look amazing. Living your best life. Tyler's loss. The validation felt incredible, but what felt even better was the genuine joy on Victoria's face as she read the comments over my shoulder. I can't believe how many people are rooting for you, she said, scrolling through the responses. Look at this. Even your cousin from Denver says she never liked Tyler anyway. I laughed, feeling lighter than I had in months. Apparently calling off a wedding 4 days beforehand doesn't win you many popularity contests. Who knew? By Wednesday, our Santorini adventure had taken on a life of its own. What started as a simple girls' trip had evolved into a full-scale documentation project, with Victoria and me filming everything from wine tastings to cooking classes to our attempts at traditional Greek dancing. The content was funny, spontaneous, and genuine. Everything my relationship with Tyler had stopped being months ago. The video that broke the internet, however, was filmed on Thursday evening at a seaside restaurant in Oya. Victoria and I had just finished an incredible dinner of fresh seafood and local specialties, and we were both a little wine drunk and feeling philosophical about life. I set up my phone to record what I thought would be a simple thank you message to everyone following our adventure. Day 6 in Santorini, I began, the camera capturing the stunning backdrop of white buildings cascading down the cliffside behind us. I just want to thank everyone who's been following along on this incredible journey. A week ago, I thought my life was over because my fiancé decided I was too clingy and desperate for him. But you know what I've realized? I wasn't clingy. I was just clinging to the wrong person. Victoria jumped into frame, throwing her arm around my shoulders. And now she's clinging to me, and I'm totally okay with it. We collapsed into giggles, and I continued through my laughter. So Tyler, if you're watching this, and I know you are because you've viewed every single one of my stories, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for showing me what I don't want in a partner. Thank you for teaching me that I deserve better. And thank you for giving me the push I needed to rebuild the friendship I should never have sacrificed for you. The video ended with Victoria and me raising our glasses to the camera and shouting in unison, to finding yourself and losing the dead weight. Within hours, the video had been shared hundreds of times, with comments pouring in from friends, acquaintances, and complete strangers celebrating my transformation from heartbroken bride-to-be to confident, independent woman living her best life. But the comment that made it all worthwhile came from Tyler himself, posted at 3 a.m. Phoenix time. "We need to talk when you get back. This has gone far enough." I screenshot the comment and showed it to Victoria over breakfast the next morning. Her response was immediate. "Sounds like someone's realizing what he lost." I smiled, feeling a satisfaction deeper than any revenge I had planned. "Too little, too late," I said, and meant every word. As I reflected on this journey of reclaiming my life and friendships, I realized that sometimes the best revenge isn't about hurting the person who hurt you. It's about becoming so happy without them that their absence becomes a gift rather than a loss.